Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 14 and compare it against the iPhone 12 and see which particular phone is a better one for you. Now, both these devices are very, very interesting. I think they're very good devices still. They're still worth buying. There might be one that might be worth buying than the other one. So we'll take a look at it throughout this whole entire video. First things first though, if you do want to go and pick up either one of these particular devices, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can also support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones. The iPhone 12, which came out back in 2020, on the front side of this particular phone is going to be giving you a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. Now this type of panel, this type of display for the most part, still looks pretty good. I think it's a good looking phone to say the least, and if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, I think this is a pretty solid option for sure. It's, fairly bright, not the brightest, but 1200 nits of brightness is okay. It's 1170p, so that still looks pretty good. And I definitely do think both these devices are going to be looking pretty decently similar, at least on the front side. But I would still say with the iPhone 12, it still looks good. You're getting the notch up top. You're getting a little bit of thin bezels all throughout. And it's, the only thing that is missing is like a 60 Hz display or like a very high brightness panel. You're basically missing out on that kind of experience inside of this device, which isn't the biggest deal in the world, but that could be a big problem depending on who you are and if you're wanting to pick up this device and all that other kind of stuff. So from that side, I think that kind of covers it up with the iPhone 12. On the iPhone 14, this phone is also fairly similar to the iPhone 12. So with this type of phone, you're still maintaining a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So that type of experience is still there, nothing really changed. You're still going to be getting 1200 nits of brightness here as well, and it still is going to be a 60 Hz refresh rate panel. So from that kind of side, it still looks great. There's not, like I said, there's not a lot of things to complain about here, but it would be nice to basically have some sort of a device that could be giving you a little bit of a better experience with that type of, display, because it's not a bad display, but like I said, it would be kind of nice to get a little bit of a better looking device. And that is kind of what's going on here for the most part, but not the biggest deal in the world. But again, one of those small, slight things to kind of think about there. On top of that, with these types of devices, another thing you're going to have to keep in mind here is that with something like the iPhone 14 and iPhone 12, they're both giving you lightning ports. The iPhone 14 was actually the last iPhone to bring any sort of lightning port, which was actually pretty interesting. Beyond that though, they both still look really good. There's not too many issues here, but it would be nice with the iPhones like nowadays to give you some sort of lightning port, but you're basically missing out on that here for the most part, which like I said is not the biggest deal in the world, but just one of those things to keep in mind. Now, on top of that, another thing to keep in mind here is that when it comes down to both of these devices, they're both giving you these flat sides, which is really nice. And they're also giving you these dual camera setups on the backside as well. So this is kind of funny because both these phones are essentially going to be giving you a similar type of layout, but the cameras are a little bit situated differently. If you're going to go through and get the iPhone 14, the way you can tell it's a 14 or 13 from the back is if the cameras are diagonal. If you see the cameras top and down, they're either an iPhone 12 or before or an iPhone 16. So kind of just depends on which way you kind of look at it. But from that side, at least on the exterior, that's kind of how they compare. When it comes down to the price tag right now in 2025, the iPhone 12's price tag is about $200 on Amazon. The iPhone 14's is about $340. So that right there, again, is kind of a slight difference too. It just depends on which type of device you want to go and pick up and how it kind of looks. Because if you're going to go through and pick up a device, it might make more sense to go and buy a different type of phone. If you have maybe $300 something to spend, you could probably swing for like a 14 Pro, like an iPhone 14 Pro. That might be better, but we'll talk about that towards the end of the video. Now, let's go and take a look at the cameras. Now these cameras are very interesting because they're both slightly different. They're both giving you 12 megapixel cameras all throughout. So every lens you see on this camera, including the front side, they're all 12 megapixel cameras. So you might be okay with that. That might be fine. Personally for me, I'm totally okay with that. I love having these types of lenses and these types of cameras, and they hold up fairly well when it comes down to that side. With that being said though, with these types of phones, you're going to have to remember that both these cameras are going to be probably more similar than not. They're both giving you 4K at 60, which is great. I love having 4K at 60 and no 8K or anything like that, which is okay. You're also going to be getting cinematic mode instead of the iPhone 14. So the 12 does not basically have any cinematic mode whatsoever, but the iPhone 14, the iPhone 12 it does still maintain 4K at 60, which is actually something I like a lot. So I do like having that type of capability there. I think you are getting like a pretty decent device from that particular perspective. So again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is going to be one of those key areas and key things that you could kind of think about if you're going to go through and pick up a phone. So from that side too, I think that's another really, really important thing when it kind of comes down to it from that side. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here too is that between both these phones, the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 12, they're both supported with software as of this point. So nothing has happened yet for these phones to no longer be supported with software. Like they're still there, they're still going to be giving you software updates, which is amazing. But if you are wanting a phone that is going to be giving you a little bit of a better experience, the iPhone 14 is definitely going to be the one that's going to be the better one here for sure. That phone is going to be giving you better capability. It's going to be giving you a longer lasting phone for the most part. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you are wanting the phone that is going to be giving you the better experience here, it without a doubt is going to be something like an iPhone 14. That one is going to be giving you the longer software supported phone, and that one makes a lot more sense to go and buy rather than something like an iPhone 12. Now, on top of that, when it comes down to the battery life, the iPhone 14 is definitely going to be giving you better battery life here than the iPhone 12. If you're going to go through and like pick up a phone, it does make a lot more sense from what I can tell to go and buy something like an iPhone 14 because that phone is going to be giving you just a better experience here than something like the iPhone 12. Like the 14's battery life is still going to be good, but the 12's battery life, the 12's battery life is still going to be okay, but the 14's battery life is going to be significantly better here for the most part. So that right there is another very important thing to keep in mind there as well. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here too is the fact that with something like the iPhone 14 and the 12 is definitely going to be not as fast as the 14. The 12 is going to be giving you the Apple A14 bonding chip with 4 gigs of RAM, where the iPhone 14 is going to be giving you the A15 bonding chip with 6 gigabytes of RAM. So that right there is going to be another very important thing to keep in mind there as well. Because if you're wanting to go through and pick up a device that's going to be giving you the better experience, it makes a lot of sense to go through and pick up a device like that that's going to be giving you a little bit of better experience on the iPhone 14. Whereas on the iPhone 12, this is going to be a little bit of a different type of experience because definitely with the iPhone 12, it's going to be, good. It's going to be giving you a good experience for the most part. But the 14 definitely makes a lot more sense to go and buy, in my personal opinion, just from that particular perspective alone. So, in my personal opinion, when I'm looking at something like both of these types of devices, I definitely do think that both these phones have done a pretty decent job for the most part. I do think the 12 is still worth buying. Definitely when it comes down to it, the iPhone, 14 is way better here. But when I'm actually going through and like using these types of devices, I actually do think that both these phones have done a pretty decent job, right? I think the 12 makes a lot more sense to kind of go and pick up. I think the iPhone 14 I don't know why I keep messing up. The iPhone 14 is kind of the better one here. The 12 is kind of a better one here as well in some ways. But definitely without a doubt, if you're going to go through and pick up a device, the iPhone 14 makes a lot more sense. But I do think if you're going to go through and pick up a device, I do think the iPhone 14 is the one that makes more sense. But I also do think that with the iPhone 14 Pro, that one makes a little bit more sense to go and buy. That one's the device I would probably recommend to go and get. And that's kind of how I see these devices holding up. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.